Welcome back, beautiful traders. I hope you had a solid weekend and are ready to tackle these wild markets once again. Now, I have to tell you something about the week that we just had. It was absolutely, what word can I use for that? Absolutely delicious, right? So seriously, we just used simple trend lines, right? And had a collective win of over 1,300 pips for the whole inner circle. I mean, every single person in the inner circle, and this was just one trade. We had one trade for the entire week, and that trade was absolutely gorgeous, right? So that's the kind of week that we just had, one that makes you want to do a little happy dance. But don't mind my little less glamorous setup that I have. We actually destroyed that, and we're looking forward to making a new trading setup, so it's kind of undergoing renovation. So let's just say that, right? So you reimagine whatever you're expecting. Comment down below what you think it's going to be looking like. Right now, back to the good stuff, right? This week was incredible. It wasn't any super secret indicator that I used, or any complex algorithm or order flow chart that I was looking at. I was not doing all of that, right? It came down to a very simple, reliable strategy that I'm always explaining on this channel, and that is trend lines, right? The moment you capture, the moment you can understand the use of trend lines and how powerful they are, then you're actually going to see a bit of progress, right, in these markets. So as you can see on my chart here, this is the beautiful trade that we had, and it is currently on the 4-hour time frame, right? An absolutely beautiful move. Now, I did explain how this trade almost tapped on our stop loss, and I explained in that video how to avoid the market going to tap out of your stop loss and how to predict this leg that it formed here. I put this stop loss when the market was somewhere around about this place here, right? I gave this order, and then the market had not formed this movement. I said we're going to buy as the market dropped into this area, and then I predicted the movement to come and play around in this area. So I had my stop loss right below this trend line, just using these 2 points of value, and then it actually went up to the top. So if you haven't watched that video where I explained the use of this technique, then you want to just check it out. It's the previous video that I just dropped. So when you're analyzing with trend lines, especially if you want to get a move for the entire week, you always want to go onto the higher time frame. That's why I like the 4-hour time frames on my trend lines right now. I feel that those higher time frames, they tell a really clear story. If you go to the lower time frames, like the 30 minutes, well, I mean, the 30 minutes is good for entries, but you want to really play around at the 4-hour time frame to get the overall bias and to get those bounce offs, right? Now, if you see the market bouncing off of this level on the 4-hour time frame, there's a high chance that this market is going to continue pushing up to the top. Or you see this market breaking out of this level on the 4-hour time frame, there's a high chance that it's going to continue pushing up also to the top, right? But on the lower time frames, this is already a lot of noise that it would have done around about this area, right? So in as simple as the trend lines are, I'm not really going to explain how to draw the trend lines. I did in most of my other videos. You could check those ones out, but it's how to use them to your advantage, right? So right now, as we were looking at this chart, right, I did explain how to catch this leg. Now, how did I know where we're going to exit? I know that if the trade breaks out of this trend line, we're going to exit the trade. But how did I know where we're going to actually take our profit, right? So we were targeting this area, which is another trend line that I had drawn on the higher time frame, again on the 4-hour time frame. I know that the market is going to get to this point, and it either has to break out of this point or to drop back down, right? So this was where our take profit was. Now, if you notice, the market got to this area, and then I waited, right? It broke out of this area, and what did I do? I immediately told my inner circle that we are shifting our take profit level, right? Because I saw a breakout of a major trend line, right? At this point, we were supposed to add positions, but then you know how the market has been reacting in the past few weeks, so you don't really want to over trade or over leverage in any trade that you are on, right? So as soon as we saw this breakout, I knew that the market is going to keep pushing up to the top. And then at this point, what did I do? I simply just told the group that we're going to change our take profit to our final take profit at 19,300. And when the market hit that level, then we eventually took full profits, and that was on Friday, right? Let's just look at that in the inner circle to see if I'm saying things that are actually aligning with that, right? You can see that close all trades, leave one running, stop loss at break even, we hold till take profit. Wait. Oh, I was so confused. It hadn't loaded because I knew that I had updated the group that we hit our final take profit. I was so confused, like what's going on. And then as you can see, the final take profit at 19,300 has been smashed, we can close all of our trades, right? You can see that. And then we only have a limit order on gold currently that we are holding. So this is a trade that we had, absolutely gorgeous trade. As you can see, we had this running for quite some time, even though on Monday it threatened us with a little drawdown, right? So on the Nasdaq, that is basically exactly the same thing that we're looking at right now. We don't have any trade on the Nasdaq that is running, so this is already the weekly analysis, and I don't want to really disturb the charts that I have here, right? So we can see that the Nasdaq has broken out of a really, beautiful point of interest. If I go on to the daily time frame, let's just see how this looks. Absolutely gorgeous. Look at this trend line that we have on the daily time frame. The Nasdaq has broken right out of that, and then we also have this level, right, which is trying to get to that level, right? So it also broke out of this area here and it's trying to push to this level. But just like everyone else, I also have my eyes on this little gap that the Nasdaq had formed on a Wednesday. I think that was Wednesday. That was actually a really good gap because it pushed, the trade that we had up. We woke up and the market had pushed, this trade up to the top. You can also check that out, which was really beautiful. So I am looking forward to the closing of this gap. Well, it is at a good spot, right? So if the market comes to close this little gap that we have here, then you can see that why it's a retest. You can see that it broke out. It did retest at first. It broke out here and then retested here, broke out again, continued to the top. Now it broke out of this area. Let me not use a lot of lines, right? It broke out of this area here. You can see this area that it was having, or we can choose to call it this area here, because we have a couple of touches, 1 2 3 4 5, right? It broke out of this area and this area has not yet been retested, so we can come and retest this area at this level, or it can come and retest it at this bank zone, at the same time also retesting again, right, this trend line. So this is a really good point of interest, and if you notice, it also has this trend line that is supporting it. So we have a lot of confluence at this level on the Nasdaq, and I'll be looking forward to buying the market if the market gets to this level right there on the Nasdaq, right? But if it does not, right, we're working with what the market does. But if it does not come to that area of value, then obviously I'll be waiting for it to come to this level, see if it gets rejected or breaks out. If it breaks out, then obviously we'll be targeting the next level, right, and then ride it up to the top. But with the way things are moving, we do expect it to drop a bit to this area, and then we move up to the top with that. That will be the first scenario that we'll be looking at. And then if it doesn't continue with the upward movement, we want to see a rejection in this area and then a bounce back. Now notice also it can really retest from this area too, right? You can see it might continue with this. So if you want to take a risky entry in this area, you can literally just go into the trade and put your stop loss right below here. But this is really risky because there's a chance that it might come to retest this zone and then drop back down and then continue to the upside. Right now that's not complicated now, is it? Let's look at what gold is saying. Now gold is also absolutely gorgeous because I did trade gold. If you notice, I made a quick $800 in my personal account on this trade because the inner circle was sleeping. It was around 2 a.m. in the morning when I traded. There was a gap on gold, right? We had a little gap on gold right here, you can see, and then I had sent this point of interest in the free signal group, and then as soon as the market dropped into this, fortunately enough, I was awake at this time, and then I managed to take this trade, and then I rode gold up to the top to close the gap, right? And as you can see, it simply just respected this trend line by breaking out of it. It broke out of it, gave a little retest, and then it continued to drop down. Right now it seems like the stocks are getting a little bit of balance once again, right? We are expecting that gold might start consolidating or even dropping further down since things seem a little better for the stock indices and all of those other things, right? So now we expect gold to drop to this level, right? This is why we have a limit order in this area, because it hadn't really tested those highs that it had broken out of when all of that tariff war started, right? So we have gold looking at this area, and I also have a little nice bank zone around about this spot, right? So I do expect gold to come back to this area, and from this area I want to buy it because it's just a break and a retest. It's coming back to a support level that it formed. It was once a resistance level, it broke out of it and it has turned into support, so I want to ride it up to the top. So that's exactly what I'll be looking to do on gold if it does come into this area. But for now, as you can see, that upward trend that it was having all of this time, did break out of it at this spot right here, and then it's currently showing you that maybe the sellers would want to step into this market. Then remember that the sellers can only step into the market when the market breaks out of 1 and 2 support areas. If it breaks out of both of them, then we'll now start seeing the formation of a little downtrend. But for now, it hasn't done that, so we're going to stay with the overall bullish movement, right? Let's go on to USD and wrap things up. Ooh, USD looks really nice. And if you've been following with the videos, once again, you understand exactly what's happening here, how we traded this beautiful move on USD, exactly what we saw, where we placed our stop loss, why we did all of those things. And let's just analyze USD right now, because it does look a little different from the Nasdaq. Like every other day, it normally looks the same, but today it does look a bit different, right? As you can see, this area, I would like to call this a magnet zone, right? It does seem like something that I've seen looking like liquidity before in the past, right? As we see the market breaking out of this area, you can see this, and then I wanted to wipe out of this area because I know a lot of people will probably sell at this zone, right? And then moves up to the top, wipes them out. Is this like a gap? I think this was a closed gap. It doesn't really look like a gap, but it seems like a gap, but I don't think it is. It has been closed. If you go to the lower time frame, that will be something that has been closed already on the lower time frame. So that's not something to worry about, right? And US30 has closed this gap that we had on Wednesday, as you can see here, and then it went up, closed the gap, and then moved up to the top, right? So this area that it has, you can see it also looks like a liquidity zone. People have started selling at this spot. As you can see, they have their stop losses right above this level or right above this level. So they're also saying that if the market gets to this level, they're going to add more selling positions, and then, you know, we want the market to sweep out of these levels and then drop or do whatever it then wants to do with those zones, right? So I want to be careful when I'm trading USD just because of that reason, and also realize we have a trend line right at this spot, right? So we have one touch, two touch. If it ever pushes up to this area, drops back down, want to catch it in this trend line, right? And then ride it up to the top, or it might get to this level, gets rejected to the zone, and then either way, I want to just look for buying positions if the market just moves in this direction and then goes up to the top. Now, if you go on to the daily time frame, let me see if we have anything interesting also on US30. I think I've seen something like this before. So what I would expect is for it to, you know, come back to the zone, bounce into this area, break out a little bit, or fake out, retest, and then continue its movement. But this is a daily time frame, so we should keep that in mind, that it might take a long time. But either way, this is what I'll be looking to do on both the Nasdaq, US30, and gold. Now, if you did find this analysis helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. You feel me with that? It's Betino, and I'll see you in the next lit video. Love you guys.